So good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us on a slightly warmer day than we had yesterday. Now, today's a subject that I'm fascinated about, but I know very, very little about it. Anybody who knows me will understand that I know nothing about technology. Which reminds me, talking of technology, please, if you need closed captioning, there's a closed caption button on the bottom of the screen, and it will bring up a transcript. Also, we are recording this session and we'll be sending it out after for everybody who registered. What I've done, because I know so little on the subject, which is quite embarrassing, is assembled a fine cast of very experienced chaps to help me through it. So we're going to be talking about digital accessibility and kind of looking at why now and why it hasn't happened. Some quick wins, some quick fixes, some things that will start you on the journey that I'm going to ask Chris to tell you about, Chris Holloway. So can I just ask the panel to quickly, if they could, just share a 2 to 3 minute opener on why digital accessibility must be the default rather than an afterthought. And if I can start with you, Nasser.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, and thank you all for joining this wonderful series of disability confident webinars, which is hopefully we share experience and knowledge on how to be more inclusive, and obviously it's a very good business kind of a smart thing to do. Why it is important? Because we have aging population, we have people with additional needs, which in the old days, technology wasn't really that smart about. They just designed everything to work for a certain number of people. And as time goes by, more and more people, especially neurodivergency, is becoming quite prevalent, more recognized. How do you get better engagement with your customers? Because, it's your shop window for the world to see. If you got information you want people to share, to learn about you. If you have IT platforms, you want people to use it properly. Otherwise, you'll have productivity and other friction within the workforce. You can't do their job. So it is that important. And why I'm involved, we've been doing disability for this week was 33 years. And our sole purpose is to enable every disabled person to participate and to succeed, to reach their full potential. So myself have been one of the original founding members of Business Disability Forum Technology Task Force on Accessibility, 2010. So for 15 years, we've been talking to major organizations why they should do it and how they should do it. So that's where my involvement and why I think it's important.
Thank you. And Chris.
Hello, how are we doing?
Well,
I'll tell you what, I'm really excited to be here. Obviously, I'm kind of the odd one out today because I'm the only one here from Recite Me. So I'm head of accessibility for Recite Me. And I've been working kind of very closely with Microlink to kind of work out some of the areas that we could potentially collaborate. So for me, why am I in this industry? I think for me, particularly, I'm a strong believer in just opportunity and choice. And I think when we look at that, disability should never be that barrier that determines whether somebody has an opportunity or a right for access to information. So for me, I absolutely love technology. It's some of the things that I get involved in over the years have been amazing around assistive technologies. But for me, particularly, it's kind of just making sure that technology can come along. It can meet people in the middle, but also break down some of those barriers that we often come across. So that's why I'm in the industry. I absolutely love it. I think also as well, one of the things that I've seen more so over the years is kind of trying to bolt on accessibility at the end. And for me, I'm really keen on just upskilling people and getting them to a position where they're confident with building digital accessibilities into their workflows and really including people.
Wonderful.
Really.
And I'm going to move on to the man who actually helps me with my IT at work, which is Neil. Neil, if you could just say a little bit about what you do and why you think just the digital accessibility matters.
Okay, yeah, sure. Well, thank you for allowing me to talk here today. I really do appreciate it, Tracy. So, okay. So, for those of you that perhaps don't know me, my name is Neil Rogers. I'm the head of digital accessibility at Microlink, and I have the wonderful job of ensuring that websites, mobile applications, and electronic documents are usable by disabled people. So that's pretty much me in a nutshell. And sort of coming off the tail end of what I've just said there, that will give you a sort of a hint as to why I think, certainly working in accessibility, but particularly in my area in terms of digital accessibility, why it's so important. Simply because it removes barriers to disabled people. That's the bottom line. But also that the area that I work in and why I love it so much is that it's people focused. And in some respects, very similar to what Chris shared earlier. One of the reasons I actually got into this field and why I love it so much is I remember speaking to my sister-in-law at the time. We were sitting down over a cup of coffee on a sofa, and I remember at the time thinking, I want to be able to move into a new career. I'd got so far in my journey, wanted to move on. So on the one hand, I said to her, I said, look, I absolutely love working with people, and I also absolutely love working with technology. Is there a career or career pathway that will bring those two things together? Now, she worked at the University of Southampton in the enabling services, and she said, funny you should mention that. There is just such a thing. And as they say, the rest is academic. So I absolutely love what I do, and that's why I'm here today. So thank you.
Fabulous. And last but certainly not least, Barry. Is your mic on? I can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Sorry, Barry. Yeah, I can hear you now.
That's right, yeah. So I've been working at Microlink for about 28 years, evaluating software and hardware and developing customized solutions to help people, give them independence, really. I've worked with disabled people for quite a long time, and I've always been a bit of a nerd when it comes to technical stuff, and I love sharing knowledge. So that's why I'm here, and it's really good working with people face to face and being able to help them with their problems and help them become more productive and independent.
Thank you. So can I ask, and please sort of jump in, I'm not going to go through each question with each one of you, but I'm really curious. Here we are, I don't know how long ago the DDA was, but the Equality Act was 2010. How long ago is that?
1995 was the
Thank you. There you go. Since then, and since the inception of everybody using laptops and everything being on your phone, how come we're still not making these things accessible from the start? And what's going to change that? Chris?
That's a really big question. I think probably
one of the big question. Yeah.
So I think probably one of the areas that we've seen I'd see the most amount of growth in is obviously how we've got the technology coming forward. So we've got much more powerful devices now, which is good. So if you look back at
they're awesome, aren't they? I remember somebody saying to me that with your mobile phone, I'd been to see, this kind of ages me a little bit, but I went to NatWest Tower when it was NatWest Tower, and I saw their IT computer room. And I'd first started working with NatWest Bank 8 million years ago. And I've got more power in my phone today than was in that room powering the entire bank, just on my phone. Yeah. It's extraordinary.
And if you think about that, so you've got a mobile device in your hand, but you've got all of the built-in accessibility features that are into that device, but you've also got an internet connection, which, if you think back when we started, we didn't have that. So you've got content that can be relayed much quicker now. I think probably some of the things, and NASA keep me true on this, I think one of the areas that we've seen real significant improvements in are things like closed captions and having those on demand, which obviously, if you look, all those years back, we wouldn't even have had those. So I think there is some really good progress. I think the way that the software is being developed now is much more dynamic. And obviously, I think from us, there's still a huge amount of work to be done, isn't there? So I think, Tracy, is there anything that in particular that you find?
Well, I'm just saying from my experience that with somebody like, if you were to look at coughs are going around today. If you were to look at the current, if I was to say the top 500 times 500, FTSE 500, and you're actually to look at I hate the word digital. I have to say, I have a speech impediment. I struggle with it. Sorry. If you were to look at the digital accessibility of the websites of the top 500 performing companies in the UK, I would suggest that about 80% of them are not accessible, which seems really, really bad. I struggle with all sorts of things, not only saying the word digital, but actually physically I can't do online banking, for example. And I'm not a daft girl. I just can't seem to get my head around it. It isn't accessible to me at all. So we're letting down, it feels, customers and candidates and colleagues within our own businesses. Do you think that's true? Is that a fair statement?
There has been a kind of a multiple revolutions in IT over the past 30 years. I remember first time I used a software to help a paraplegic person. It's something called Kurzweil. It was a kind of a voice to text. It was a one word at a time. Accuracy was around 40-50% at best. So when Windows 95 came out, we packaged it together for the first time for disabled people. Even the software wasn't meant for disability. It was meant for business people. It cost £6,000 for a laptop with that software. So what's changed is, one, technology is obviously advanced. Second, hardware prices is dropped. So it's become mainstream. By 2010, virtually every device, even your microwave oven, was being operating by text-to-speech or speech-to-text. So the technology developed because of the demand grew for retail. But as we kind of, if you look at things like captioning, even devices were invented for people who were blind maybe donkeys years ago, have found their way into the mainstream. So it's no longer an issue of actually some niche device for certain people. Everyone find them extremely useful. The reason why it's such a slow thing is that the foundations were built from the start on the wrong platform. They were just coupling things together to make it work. Because all the technology we use is built on that old foundation, it's so hard to undo and start all over again. It takes a brave soul to do it, and that's what happened with Apple. They started from scratch, even though they had a platform operating system. They said, we're going to start anew. And because they did it, they managed to get there first. And others are now following suit. Microsoft, Google are right behind them. So it takes time. It's been very slow, but it's now accelerating. And probably AI is the biggest factor in that.
So, I mean, do we need to be digitally accessible, Neil?
Absolutely. I think there's a whole, literally a list as long as my arm of all the different reasons why you need to be digitally accessible. I think perhaps the most major one is that it's just simply it's not optional. It's got to be part of your business's culture. It's got to be part of literally everything that you do in the company. So accessibility, digital accessibility needs to be baked in right from the get-go. And that's why it's so important, and it must be included, because you're going to actually exclude quite a large number of people. So I mean, there are statistics. I think it's from the WHO, so the World Health Organization, who says that there's approximately 1 in 5 people have a disability globally that impacts their use of digital products and services, and that's those that we know about.
Wow.
So it's also important to realize as well, you can get what's called undisclosed disabilities. And so it's likely that that 1 in 5 is probably actually something closer to 1 in 4, something like that.
Okay, but if you were to take and extrapolate what you just said, we've got obviously the younger generations coming up who are a lot more tech savvy than I am. Surely the problem's solving itself.
That's a very good question and a very astute comment. I think one of the things to perhaps be aware of here is in terms of people's digital skills. So certainly for the younger generation, okay, one of the things we have found in some of the projects that we've worked on is that, so for the younger generation, they might have exceptional skills, digital skills, in terms of using gaming consoles, the Xboxes, PlayStations, also their mobile devices, but specifically on the mobile devices, things like social media, actually using the devices to contact each other, organize, get-togethers, etc. And so certainly the younger generation are very skilled in that area. And so it's a very narrow band of skill. But when you actually ask them how to use, for example, an Excel spreadsheet, it's that for many younger people in that generation are uncertain as to how to use it, and also the other thing as well to bear in mind is that people certainly in that generation also struggle to use the World Wide Web or the internet. And you typically find that they might just use it for for gaming and things like that. Yes, sure, they might surf the web just generally for general stuff, but it's mainly used. The internet's mainly used for gaming. So it's just to be aware of those sorts of nuances. I think is probably important to include.
Barry, do you think that we need to change what we're doing drastically, and how do you think we can do it?
Well, the way we use computers and technology and interacting with all sorts of things around us is changing. Technology is advancing all the time. You've got AI-powered interfaces now that are moving kind of beyond automation to sort of personalization. There's a lot more personalization happening. And these systems are kind of adapting in real time, so kind of expectation is increasing, and it's helping us with navigation. It's adjusting the way that we see information, and there's so you've got the AI, you've got how that's harnessing voice at the moment a lot. You've got more probably coming along as gesture control as well, so people's gestures will be registering how to interact with content and maybe customize the way that's seen.
But that all suggests that companies need to be making some radical changes to their own IT so that I can access it in different ways.
Yeah, definitely. So it's not just about ticking a box, but you can navigate to the keyboard.
One thing we have to be very clear, it is a legal requirement, especially with EAA, the European Accessibility. Companies who work with the public sector have to be. If that is not incentive enough, the second part, because of the explosion number of people with their own website, with their own offering and all sorts of confusion, what makes you stand out is when somebody is looking for a particular subject, you want to come up on the ranking. And if your site is not accessible, then you're not going to be shown on that list. So, and accessibility is doing the thing with the right way. It's not about anything special. If you actually, take care in designing and implementing something, that actually by automatic means you appeal to everyone, not just the 80%. So I think Chris is their expert in that matter. He worked in big, large organization as well as working for Recite Me. He can tell you the power of getting it right.
Yeah,
Go on,
I
then,
agree.
Chris.
I was going to say, in terms of go back, Nasa, going to a website, when accessibility has been done right, when it's not a thought, when you just go to the website, you're able to use the website as you need to. It's not it's not special features that are extra. It's kind of that moment where you could just go. You're able to go and book the bowling alley, for example, because there's no barriers there. It's just more a case of I think for us is if we're sort of looking at accessibility as being the extra feature that sits on top of a website, then absolutely, that is a possibility. So we have, for example, our toolbar that can help with that. However, I think, from our perspective, if you've not built that website compliant and accessible from the beginning, you've not spent any time really understanding how your clients interact with your site, what works really well. Of course, your website's never going to work well anyway. So I think looking at accessibility right from the beginning, really building it in for assistive technologies, make sure that they can work well with it, and then not treating accessibility as kind of that hidden extra, I think is the right way to go.
Okay, so if I were to ask two things of you, Chris, then one is I want you to, and I'm so sorry about this. One of you, I'd like you to explain what Recite Me does. We've had a conversation before, and I've been aware of Recite Me for a long time, within the space of it being, I'm going to use the words in parentheses, as being an overlay, as something that's a stopgap, so people who've got a current website that people can access but isn't perhaps as accessible as we would like it to be, it is there to at least assist people can listen to it, can't they?
Yeah.
So what do you do different now, though?
So just to kind of make this clear with our toolbar, one of the things that we're really, really clear on when we put the toolbar onto a website is that we don't want it to impact or change or manipulate anything on the page that then stops somebody with assistive technologies, or whether they're using their own built-in stuff, from not being able to use that website. So, it's a toolbar that kind of appears at the top of your screen. You can use it to kind of customize your experience. Now, what I particularly like about that is it's about giving people options. If that's something that appeals to, if you want an option to kind of turn your screen tint up a little bit, or perhaps increase the screen size, but really easy to do, then that's the right way to go. I think it's it's a good position where you can give yourself options to change that. What we also do, part of that, just obviously that part of onboarding, is that we would bring in some experience around. So my role at Recite Me as head of accessibility is I look after the client consultancy part as well. So we look at manual audits, we look at user experience, we make sure that things are working well alongside the toolbar. So, for me, I think if I was to look at technology and kind of tell you where it's going, we need to be giving people options. We need to be able to let people adjust how they want to view things, not just be fed kind of a structured view that everybody gets. It's something that we need to be able to kind of embed. And I think that's where hopefully that's where AI is going to potentially come in and help with some of that gap as well. So, being able to go to a website and have it presented to you in the way that you want to be able to see it, or view the content, feels the right way to go for me.
So can we all sit back and say, job done, AI is coming, let's not bother?
I think absolutely not. I think so.
Just checking.
No. So AI. My stance on AI is that it comes along as being a support help aid for us. It's not something that is going to come along and fix everything without us sort of being part of that journey. So when I look at AI, I think it's a great tool to help you kind of automate some of those things that are just generic that you never need to think about, but it should never replace a person in terms of their thought process, experience as well. You can never get an AI tool to truly understand how a person feels when they come to your website. They can't interact with it, they can't do what they need to do with it. And actually, if a computer just says, nope, that's it, you're done, I think that's a terrible experience. And that's something that AI, I don't see filling that gap quickly, if at all. So I think AI comes along, it just kind of helps you with some of those tasks. We use, just give you the example there to kind of help. When we're doing manual accessibility audits, so I would sit and our team would manually audit something with lived experience. We'd go through a site and we'd be able to tell you kind of where potential barriers are, manually looking at it. Where we use AI is to help us record what we found. So it's not gonna sit there and tell me what I found on the screen. what it's going to help me do as somebody that's trying to go through this is to go, well, I found the problem or the barrier. I just want to give it over there, and that will go and take it off to a sheet, for example, and go and log all the bits I need it to do, so I don't have to worry about that bit. That's where I see AI as being a helper.
Interesting. We've just had a comment from Jenny. I can't pronounce your surname, apologies. It says AI based on LLMs.
Yep.
LLM, somebody can tell me what that is, has been tremendously harmful to disabled people, given that a high proportion of disabled people work in the creative industries because they're more accessible than others. What's an LLM?
Large language model. Well, actually,
okay.
That again, like anything else, these are tools, and they're suitable for some and not for all. And this is a generalization which is dangerous. Both AI is good or bad. They both can actually be good for certain people and could be terrible for others. So I think we've got to look at the barrier people are facing and how do we remove the barriers. I was reminded by a very good friend of us. Actually, his name is Phil Friend. He said, I am a wheelchair user. I've got 2 children. I go shopping and they don't have a ramp. I don't go into the shop. I don't buy anything for my children. And certainly a mother with a pram will have the same problem. So fix the ramp, and then you'll find that more people will come to you. So part of the incentive to get it right is to make sure everyone can enter your shop. And that can be done. AI can speed up, as Chris says. It's not going to do the job for you. You still need creativity. You still need people to be able to understand another human being and understand their psychology. And then they could use the AI to kind of automate certain parts. But I fully understand why that comment about it's not good for creative industry. Creative industry require a different adjustment. And that is very much like individuals with creative mind also have some neurodivergency traits. What can you do for them to make them be better, even better than what they are? And sometimes that requires a visual art, a visual kind of a thing rather than written format. As I said, each individual has to have a unique each group would need their own unique solution.
So if we're looking at standardization, if I can use an example from when I worked at BDF, Business Disability Forum, there was work that they'd done with Tesco's. So we all know Tesco's stores. Tesco's used to have a website that was over here that the public used, and it kind of like clunked along and it was okay. They then made a really bold decision. They developed from scratch a new website for disabled people to allow the disabled people to have better access to their stores, goods and services. And over a period of months, they found that everybody transitioned onto this more accessible, cleaner looking, easier to access for everybody. And eventually they shut down the original website. So we always see this, or it seems time and time again, that something that's developed for disabled people happens to be really good for everybody. And Tesco's saw it as a really prime example to show how much more money they were making. Let's face it, we're in business to make money. However we do it, they made more money by making their site more accessible. So I'm going to ask you, what do you do? You've got your website. You kind of think it's okay, but you know that it's not. I'm going to say the initials wrong, Neil. WCAG 2.2 or 3 as it now is, I think.
It's WCAG 2.2. That's correct.
Thank you. So, yay. Where do we go? Barry, have you got any ideas? You've got a basic website. It's done the job. You know it's not accessible. Do you have to rebuild? Is retrofitting more expensive? How do you source somebody?
I mean, for some, it can be seem like quite a daunting task in the beginning.
Well, yeah.
And standardization is a big part of it as well. If somebody else has put a lot of effort into creating something that does work, like making it so that you can select the date in it. When you need to select a date range, making that accessible. If one person's done it, another company shouldn't go and develop their own way of making it accessible. We should be sharing that information and stuff. But yeah, which order do you do things? And maybe you start with the first 5 most accessed pages on a website and just start to check.
take it apart and just say, right,
Yeah,
okay, your landing page and maybe your ordering page.
yeah,
Get those bits right.
yeah. And then kind of think, right, okay, what am I going to check on these 5 pages? Maybe I'll check keyboard navigation first. Can you tab through the thing logically? Can you see where you are? Can you activate the controls that you need to? These types of problems, they can be fixed quite easily with minimal changes to the code. And then I suppose you can check the images, check the videos, check any files that are on there, like PDF files. Make sure there's meaningful alternative text for the elements on the page. And videos, I suppose, yeah, make sure your videos have got captions. And
now, there's some easy tools for captioning, for example, on videos. And I mean, again, I'm saying this from the stance of somebody who's not technologically adept. But is it something like YouTube? You can get your captioning done. So as a very minimum, if you run it through YouTube, you get that, and then you can put it back on your website.
Yeah. I mean, there is a file that you can create, isn't there, like a subtitle sort of file, and you can manage that separately and import it later. It depends if you're creating the file or using a website to like YouTube.
Thank you. So, Neil, what are you looking at in terms of, do you go to a company like you? Do we come to you, Neil, and say, sort our website out? Do we go to somebody like Chris and say, Chris, do we have an access audit done on our website, on our PDFs, which are all part of the communications that we use? How do we approach this? Go on, Chris. Neil, sorry.
Okay, I was going to say, I think kind of just one of the main things is about talking first of all to the client and actually establishing what they require and what they really need. So there's a difference between what they want and what they need.
So how do you find out how the users what they need?
Okay, so that's simply comes down to when actually talking to the client. You typically find that, if they, for example, they've got customers, they might even have internal staff as well. And typically one of the key aspects to look for in all of this is do they have a disabled community using their particular services and or product?
Right.
So that's going to be the key thing to look for. If that is there, then you need to then start to look at, okay, what are those people actually saying about that particular product or service? If you've got a website, can disabled people use your website? So, I mean, Barry very eloquently described some of the issues that are related. So one of the key ones in there as well is to look at color contrast of text. So is your text low contrast? Now,
what do you mean by low contrast?
So, okay, to give you an example, so I'm sure you've all probably come across point sizes in terms of writing Word documents, things like that. So
the font size and
that's correct.
Shape.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So what I want you to do is to imagine a white blank Word document, and you type in text that say 9 point in size, so it's quite small, and you make that 9 point text grey, and it's on a white background. So if it's a light grey, light grey against a white background is going to be very difficult for you to see. So you can very quickly see that if you then change it to, say, for example, black text, you can probably start to read it even at 9 point, but then to also increase the point size. So it's really important to help clients particularly to understand that for low contrast text or color contrast issues, there's a direct connection between the color that you use, or if it's black and white or gray, and actually the size of the text as well. So there's a relationship between those two things. So it's things like that you need to be aware of, and it's you make those changes, and it does make a big difference to people using your website. I know myself also. It's not just for people who are visually impaired, but for those who are neurodivergent. So I remember doing some user testing with a particular adult, and she was dyslexic, and she had Asperger's as well. So she had both of those conditions, and she wasn't aware of using thematic controls on a website. Now, it's not necessarily saying that this is, these are an absolute must, but I showed her how to use that on a website. So by thematic control, what I mean is being able to adjust color contrast of text, the background. So she was dyslexic, and she also was struggling with Asperger's. I showed her how to use that, and I'm not kidding. She actually was almost in tears because she said, and this was her own words, she said, "Do you know what? That's the first time I've ever been able to read a website without the words all jumbling up in front of me."
Oh, wow.
She was literally, I mean, okay, I don't want to exaggerate. She wasn't sort of gushing in tears and stuff, but what you could see,
I
she was
think
welling
we
up.
get the image.
She was
I mean,
welling up.
that's something that is emotion worthy, though,
Yeah.
isn't it?
And
But
it
that's
goes,
one person, and we were talking about 1 in 5 of a global population potentially that's struggling with this.
And spot on, I think, and this goes back, and it comes back to what Chris was saying earlier, is it's people centric. At the end of the day, it's how do people actually cope with these things? What are they feeling when they're actually using your website? Are they going to come away with a great user experience? That's the bottom line. That's where the magic happens. And I mean, it's kind of also to some degree touching on something that Chris shared earlier. And I'm going to try to answer one of the questions in the Q&A. There's a chap, I think it's Mark Peterson. He's asked about where technology is going. So this idea of being able to allow people to use technology in almost a seamless way. Well, 10 years from now, we're looking at being able to use what's referred to as invisible UX, or invisible user experience. And what that refers to is, and it's quite amazing, it's essentially, again, Chris touched on this earlier, is where a person can use a platform or an interface like a website, and it's so easy to use. It almost feels like it's invisible. You're just able to do exactly what you want, get it done, and you get the result back sorted. That's how it should be in terms of user experience for everybody. Now, taking it even further than that, there is what they refer to as being able to operate at the speed of thought. Now you can think, oh gosh, what on earth does that mean? So operating at the speed of thought, this is something that's way down the line. So we're talking 5 to 10 years from now. And it's this seamless interfaces that people, particularly those who are disabled, can actually use them so powerfully that it's almost as if they're able to operate and just go about their ordinary everyday lives completely independently. And that's where we're looking down the line. So hopefully, Mark, that answers your question on that one.
Gosh. NASA, can I ask you a question? Is it form over function for most websites?
Well, look, actually, the greatest example of how you could do things right is first to understand what your customers want. If people don't do it accessibly, it means they don't understand business, they don't understand the customers, because technically it's not too difficult to get it right. Technically, we got great web developers who could actually make anything happen. What Steve Jobs did with Apple was a classic example. He designed something that everyone could use, and look at why it's got the global dominance of the mobile phones, because it's fully accessible to everyone. Every blind person I know has got an iPhone.
Really?
Oh yeah, talk to them, ask them what they use, because it was fully developed, fully accessible, and now others are following in suit. So if you get it right, because you're dealing with customers and the customers have a certain need, make sure you give it to them. And that's why I think the argument about use the business rather than the law to try to force companies to get it right. And I think in the next 10 years, people will find any innovative ways to get better engagement with the customer. That means you have to cater for 100% of your customer needs. You have to be 100% flexible in any way they want to set it up, so you can actually achieve the what they want, the most comfortable way to interact with the technology. Just imagine how many banks rely on customer service to be done by online, and
Yeah.
if it's not accessible, how many people will actually persevere? They won't.
I don't.
I don't, exactly. So that really shows the companies who don't fully understand the customer needs are going to lose out, and they have lost out. You look at the online shopping, taking over the, lots of the big shops that people don't go there because
Mm.
easier to interact.
Yeah.
Amazon has made it their mission to make it the easiest platform to sell to people. And they look after the needs of their customers by making it accessible. Let that be less a reason why everybody else should do the same.
Yeah. No, it's a really interesting point. So, Chris, do we scrap all our websites? Do we start from fresh, or do we do something? Well, do we?
Well, I was going to start with what NASA was just talking about there, and
please.
kind of almost a click away pound, isn't it? So you've got people coming to a website, may have some form of disability or additional needs, can't get to where they need to on the site, and they're going to go somewhere else. It's as simple as that. And potentially they're going to go to a competitor that is able to to cater for their needs. So I think the last figure, I've got it on screen here, 446 billion pounds worth of click away revenues going to other competitors. That's near on double what the previous estimate was of 274 billion. So you can see, obviously, you've got inflation in there. However, when you look at how there's that shift to digital, you obviously got more people coming online and doing things before, more banks. You said about banking, there are less banks in the high street. People are going onto these platforms. Now, if you're talking about what the next steps are, I think I saw something a couple of weeks back which absolutely knocked me off my feet, and it was one of the best pieces of tech I've seen for a while, and that is the Meta Ray-Bans. I don't know if you've seen those yet.
Yeah.
So the Meta Ray-Bans, we were talking, obviously, Neil, you said just a second ago about going to a site, and then why do we even need a UI? Why do we need something to be defined by a store owner or a company? Why do they need to define what their user experience or the UI is going to be for somebody that wants it in their own colors? That I reckon we're going to get to a position where you may not even have a UI in front of you. So those Meta Ray-Bans that we were talking about the other day. So there's a few people that I spoke to with who are blind vision impairments that are using those devices there to interact with surroundings. They're able to get information straight through the glass. It was just phenomenal. And I'm thinking, from my perspective, is I think we're going to see technology that's not even out there yet really playing into part of this. You've also got to think about, if you go back 10 years ago, how many different types of jobs have come up in the last 10 years? Huge amount of different roles, because there's a difference in the industry. So I'm also thinking that you've potentially got different job roles that are going to come in within the next decades. You're going to have different technology overlap in that. Who's to say, that a computer being in front of you is the only way to do things? I think that's going to change quite drastically as well.
But still, where we are now, Chris, is, if I bring it back to me, because everybody knows it's always about me, is how do I get to do my digital banking when I can't even get on their website? I can't do it.
It's a challenge. I think one of the areas that, and this is where we sort of speak to our clients as well, is clients need to take ownership. So clients, we need, banks, any facilities, anyone that's providing services, because of obviously you've got EAA, got ADA regulations coming in. They need to take responsibility and make sure that it's easy for people with disability. They don't even have to have a disability. If they're struggling to get onto your website and there's a digital barrier there, it needs to be easy to report that back up to say that you're having a problem, or you need some help with something, or you need an alternative. So I think, going back to, I think, was it Neil, you're talking about WCAG compliance. Compliance for me means, obviously, you've got the technical aspects of that, the WCAG side of things, if that's what you want to follow. compliance for me means that you've got things like an accessibility statement that provides guidance on how somebody can raise or escalate an issue or something they need some help with. Do you have an easy mechanism for somebody to seek help? It's one of those things that if somebody isn't able to use something, because it's quite, don't get me wrong, we can build content to be inclusive and accessible, but even then you're still not going to cater to 100% of your audience. It's just not possible. However, that gap in middle, you need to be listening to your clients. You need to be modifying and updating and letting them know what you're doing. And for us, a good example you said there with Tesco's is just the shift in their model. So one of my clients recently, when we started an audit, said, do you know what, about 70% of our clients actually use a mobile device. For us,
that's going to change how you develop your website, surely.
Yeah, it's a good opportunity to go, right, okay, we've got 70% of your audience going through on a mobile. Why is that? Let's have a look. So when we dug down a bit deeper, it's just the way the app worked better. So actually people were going towards that first, and it was more available. And actually people were shopping on the go. So they're not stuck in front of a computer. They're moving. So we were like, right, how do we focus on that? And then bring in those other aspects. So what we've got is user surveys, asking people how they would shop in a slightly different way, and bringing in user experience. So, I think there's a huge amount we can do.
You're asking questions.
Yeah,
you're interrogating what people want from the service.
You've got to be asking your audience. You've got to be connecting out to your clients, your audience, and saying, look, how do we make this better? And then I think the key factor is listen. I think that's where a lot of website developers and builders build this amazing platform, but then if we're bolting accessibility on at the end and they've missed the point of what the website's supposed to be doing, then it's not going to work for anybody. So I think it's just about stepping back, listening, and spending a little bit more time sort of talking to people, particularly with disabilities, because they've got very good lived experience around how their technology needs to work with your platforms. And if you've got a good understanding at that level, you're going to start off better with your platform. I think it's as simple as that.
Yeah, I'd agree. Nassi, you wanted to make a comment then?
Oh yeah, I was going to say, somebody said something about AI. They said AI, I mean, at the rate it's going, will not guarantee your success, but not using AI will guarantee your failure. So the same goes for accessibility.
Yeah.
Because those who are getting it right will have your breakfast. If you don't get it right, you will fall behind. That is for sure. Because, more users are going on the mobile devices to do shopping. More people are using it to do the customer service element. So, and if you're in a position where you're not accessible, then don't let perfection be the stopping your progress. So what you need to do is to make minimum features available so people can personalize it. So, as what Chris said, and Neil, being able to change the font size and the color, put some additional kind of filters will actually enable more people to use your site. I know the old tradition, I'm guilty of that as well, that I bought a car with 1,000 features. I only use 2 or 3 of it, right?
Yeah.
Stop putting too many bells and whistles if people don't need it. Just listen to your customers. As Tesco example, which worked for a while because that was really a wake-up call. They now, Amazon is so incredibly intuitive, right? I mean, it may not be perfect for everyone, but if you want something, you know how to find it. And that's what designers of websites should be looking at. How do you make it easy? Make it accessible, make it personalized, customizable. Then you find that people will use it. So I think the business sense is to do it right, and accessibility is the right way of doing things.
Yeah.
Thank you. I mean, there's some interesting things that I've seen, like Recite Me, and Neil, on one of the pages, I think your I wish I could say this word, digital accessibility page on the Microlink website, for example, has the BSL avatar on.
That's correct. That's right.
How does that work?
Okay, so the BSLR avatar, it's produced by a company called Synapse, and it's essentially it's a photorealistic representation of a person producing sign language on screen. So particularly for BSL users, that's going to be absolutely perfect. But the great thing is that it's automated. So it uses AI to actually create the avatar, or the photorealistic version of the avatar or the person, and you can actually copy and paste text, and it will translate that into BSL for you.
So for a static page,
that's correct.
You can set it up ideally.
That's correct. And then also, depending on which setting you apply, you can also do it for other content as well.
Okay, wonderful.
They use that Synapse in train stations, if you notice.
That's
correct.
So it is so easy. It's so the cost is not high. So why not do it? That's the question.
And you don't, as you say, you can pick and choose which pay if you don't have the funds to redo the whole thing.
That's correct.
Yeah,
cool.
And there are, and as Chris highlighted, amazing technologies are coming out using augmented reality glasses like the Ray-Ban and Meta. I mean, we just working with a company called SEVA, SEVA. Got these glasses where it's predominantly for people who are with vision loss. So you can do just like any other, you don't even need internet connection. You could do like magnification, just touch the side, it magnifies, and then you can read menus, you can actually recognize objects, and it can also be a wayfinder, so show you where you are. So these are for people with vision loss, but they can also do other amazing things. But the cost is coming down so much that even individuals who want to travel the world and want to speak to the locals in their language, they can wear one of these glasses and they get translation, caption and translation onto their glasses. I mean, that technology exists today. So what I'm saying, all this accessibility that is vital for people with disabilities, finding their way to everyday life, and everyone is going to want one. And as the cost is coming down, that's what's going to happen. iPhone is not a standard for people to try to live up to. And
I have to give a shout out for Android.
I know.
I love the accessibility features that Google build in. I do.
Yeah.
I just,
it's a good thing. They followed a good example.
I'd love to just add in there as well about what NASA's saying there is I read an article a little while back. I think it was actually on LinkedIn of all places, but it just showed you a video of a gentleman who was he was partially sighted. It was quite a severe impairment, and he was wearing. I'm not sure. I have a sneaky suspicion it was the Meta Ray-Bans, but it was certainly he looked rather cool. It has to be said. It was a sunny day. He was on a beach with his family, and he was wearing these sort of shades, and people didn't realise he was actually severely partially sighted.
Wow.
Because of the fact that the way that the technology operated, again, it comes back to that sort of seamless operation. So it's almost as if he didn't have a disability.
Yeah.
Because it just allowed him to interact with people just as everybody else did. Because he was also wearing sunglasses, nobody knew that he had, information being
That's part of the challenge when you come into the office environment, though. And I know I've seen a few different glasses where when you're in the office and it's a cold winter's day, like now it's about to go dark, you can't really walk around with dark glasses, can you? Barry, in terms of the visual impairment that we've come across, I mean, it's one of the biggest barriers to people accessing digital stuff. What do you do? Because you get quite involved in scripting. How does that work?
Well, I mean, I deal with it's using text to speech, isn't it? It's reading out using a synthesized voice what information is on the page when you navigate with the keyboard. But even that's a JAWS screen reader, for example. That's a very common one. I customize JAWS to enhance somebody's ability to be able to use an application, a web page. So the web page might be compliant, compliant. I might be able to tab through those items to get to the bit I want, but I can use JAWS to kind of customize how I use that page. Instead of having to press the tab key 56 times, I can just go to one key press. But then JAWS is also incorporating AI into its application, so you can trigger it. You can use voice to ask JAWS to tell you, to describe to you what the image is on the page. If it's not got appropriate tagging and description, you can just use the AI to give more information about that, and that can be also offline as well as online. And I know that it's because there's still a gap that needs to be bridged, where a lot of content, a lot of applications, they're still being developed for mouse control. Because you're hovering over something, it's telling you about what it does, and interacting with that is very hard for visually impaired users. So JAWS is now able to tell you much more about the page and be able to offer you controls to be able to interact with those things that wouldn't before be accessible. So I use JAWS I have to support people with JAWS, and I'm customizing it for a lot of banks, helping them keeping their work and enhancing their productivity.
Yeah, I love that. Nasser, in terms of simple things like camel case, actually I should have asked you, Chris. You did a bit of a camel case campaign, didn't you? On LinkedIn. You mentioned LinkedIn before.
Yeah, so I think probably for us as well is, we're talking about websites, we're talking about going to a website and actually using that, but we've also got quite a lot of social interaction as well. So you have a lot more people going over to sort of social media, whether that's LinkedIn, for example, one of my favorites, or whether they're on X or something similar. A lot of content and a lot of learning, micro-learning, comes in through social media. So one of the areas that in particular we try to focus on is when you're using things like hashtags. And one of the things that we tend to do is create a really exciting hashtag, but actually we keep all the text the same size or lowercase. And actually what happens is two things. A lot of people focus on that as an impact for someone that's using JAWS or a screen reader, for example. But actually, do you know what? It benefits everybody, because there's a lot of the hashtags that I've read in the past, and I just don't understand what they're saying. But what
the words roll in, don't they? They just form a great big lump instead of separate words.
Capitalize the first letter of every word that has meaning in that hashtag. It just makes it so much easier for anybody to read, but also you've got the potential, if someone's coming along and using a screen reader of their own, vision impairment, actually reads the hashtag out correctly for them, rather than just a really long big string of text.
It's a real simple win, isn't it?
Super. It doesn't. You think it doesn't add any time to your day in terms of doing that, but the impact it has for somebody just really understanding what that hashtag means, or being able to click on something because you've described it correctly, that makes a lot of difference to somebody.
I mean, Neil, you do a lot around the alt text. We mentioned alt text are descriptions of things. People can be really slack around how they've described or not bother describing. So people, if you've got a visual impairment, which is coming up a lot as the accessibility challenge, one of the biggest ones, but you see that a lot, don't you, with alt text not done correctly or not done at all?
Yes, a lot of the time, and certainly in terms of the work that I'm doing, I think it's very important, so that not only do you need to have alt text, but to make it very clear as to the meaning of the alt text as well. I've even come across images where the content of the image was completely different to the alt text that described it.
So not helpful.
Completely not helpful.
Listen, I'm very conscious of time, chaps. So I just wanted to get one thing from each of you, please, that we can just say, if you do nothing else from this session, please go away and do. Neil, you're here. What's the one thing people need to do?
I think for me is again low contrast text, as I mentioned earlier. So anything to do with low contrast text, please address
So
that. Yeah.
have a chat with your brand people as well, because
Sure,
sometimes
sure.
it's the actual brand colours that the marketing team will insist on, will make it inaccessible. So that's a really good point there. Thanks. Barry?
Collaborate more. I'd say it's digital accessibility isn't a technical challenge solved once and forgotten. It's an ongoing commitment.
I love that.
Requiring emergence.
Collaboration, not competition.
Yeah,
really important. Let's learn from each other. Thank you. Chris?
So mine challenge is more around the culture. So for me, it would be, really not treating accessibility as a negative. A lot of people look at accessibility barriers and issues being raised into their organization, treating it negatively.
Yeah.
Actually, it's your biggest opportunity to listen to the people that are that are giving you feedback. And it's a really good opportunity to make your products and services more accessible to everybody, not just
Fabulous.
those.
Thank you. And last word to NASA.
Well, I'm an employer, I'm a campaigner, I'm a technologist. Nothing can be done unless you talk to your users, your employees, and then your customers. Say, does it work for you?
Yeah.
They'd be surprised how much you don't know. So go and ask your employees, check my website, check my internal IT. What is it that is not happening, not working? And then go and fix it. Simple.
Some brilliant advice there. Thank you ever so much for joining us, both to the panelists, Neil and Barry and Chris, and of course NASA. And thank you all for listening in. We've got copies, recordings that we will send out. And that's our last Disability Confident webinar until the new year. But we'll see you then. Have a great Christmas. Cheerio, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Tracy.
Have a great Christmas. Bye-bye.
Well done. Thank you.